What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Now, there have been some curious comments from the Marvel brass over the last year or so, some of which have gone like this. There are certain characters from the Multiverse Saga that we will never see again. And this was Kevin Feige talking. If you sat down and made a short list of who those characters could be, I think we could all agree there are some, maybe like Gaia from Secret Invasion, that most likely will never show up in the MCU again. But there were other quotes about other properties made in the last year as well that could elongate that list, including teams like the Eternals, where it was admitted at some point last year around the red carpet for Deadpool and Wolverine that currently Marvel Studios has no plans for an Eternals sequel, nor do we expect to see any of these characters during the upcoming end to the Multiverse Saga. But not so fast, because if one industry insider is correct with his latest update, not only did he possibly reveal the next major crossover down the road for the next saga at the end of Phase 7 and Phase 8, but it also could be the title for Avengers 7 and a huge crossover including none other than the Eternals. We're going to break it all down, this Judgment Day update, what it means for the X-Men, the Avengers, and the Eternals, and of course, where we ended the first Eternals film, basically setting this up for somewhere down the road. We're breaking it all down. Judgment Day is the first major crossover post-Avengers Secret Wars, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel. That's all we do. Thanks to everyone who's been subbing lately and helped grow the channel. If you haven't already, I just kindly invite you to do so. It's the number one thing you can do to support us. Plus, it'll earn you for the giveaways if you want. Stick around at the end of the video. We get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so this is the latest coming from industry insider Alex Perez talking about the upcoming crossovers that Marvel Studios has planned, including Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. He then also mentions that there's one other unannounced crossover that Marvel Studios is planning, and none other than Judgment Day. Now titled AXE for Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day was a major crossover with the three teams in which the Eternals decided to judge the Earth because they saw the mutants as deviants. Now obviously, if we go back to the end of Eternals, this is exactly what they were setting up, where the Celestials were going to take what Eternals they had left, gather them up, look through their memories and see what they know of man, and then judge the Earth. Again, this was setting up Judgment Day. We just didn't know if they would ever choose to revisit this based on the fact that Eternals did so poorly. Well, the Multiverse Saga definitely for a while there lost its way with what it was trying to build as a storyline. It is conceivable to think while they were mapping out Kang and even maybe thinking about Doom back in the day that the Eternals were meant to be a part of the Multiverse crossover and even have Judgment Day included, but obviously with what we now know was second thoughts of Doom, and from the beginning, Marvel Studios seems like they were extremely sensitive to the performance of projects early in the Multiverse Saga, things like Ant-Man and the Wasp and Eternals under-delivering, and so whatever plans they may have had obviously shifted quickly, and that's what led to them saying right now there's no plans to see the Eternals again. But to be fair, that comment was referring to an Eternals 2, and obviously there's no room for that, and during the Multiverse Saga it doesn't mean that they didn't plan on revisiting this storyline. And what a great storyline to involve two major teams like the Avengers and the X-Men, including the return of the Eternals as we're entering the Mutant Saga, especially post-Secret Wars. And believe me when I tell you, this is an insane crossover. Just because it's Avengers, X-Men, Eternals doesn't mean other teams aren't included like the Fantastic Four, but characters that don't fit into those teams as well, like Kraven and Spider-Man. You've even got the involvement of X-Men villains like Mr. Sinister. There is so much going on in this story across lots of classic characters and teams that, even though Marvel Studios has laid the groundwork for Judgment Day, they still have a lot of world building to do, which seems insane because maybe that's what got them in trouble during the Multiverse Saga, building out the world wide without actually pulling it together. But still, there are too many characters absent, and from that storyline, they still have to introduce, and that's why when Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said that they have a plan now that takes them through 2032, if Alex Perez is right and this is the plan for the next major crossover, we won't be getting it until that date or maybe even later. They're going to finish off Avengers Secret Wars in December of 2027, then 2028 will kick off Phase 7 and presumably the beginning of the Mutant Saga or something else. We've heard that this saga might actually be very cosmic in nature, so it might not actually be called the Mutant Saga, but regardless, this seems like it would be Avengers 7 Judgment Day, maybe even Avengers 7 and then Avengers 8 Judgment Day. And this is where it makes a lot of sense in the big picture. Let me explain. Marvel Studios waited way too long after dismantling the Avengers in their current state at the end of Avengers Endgame and getting rid of Tony Stark and essentially Steve Rogers they did not cash back in on the investment they made. They realized they need to be offering us Avengers films a lot more steadily along the way in order to tie this all together and have a plan from the beginning on how it's going to work. The Multiverse Saga, and for all its failures, could have taught them a lot of lessons, and this is them showing that they learned. Instead of not having a new Avengers film on the horizon or one to announce until 5 or 6 years after the previous one, it won't go Avengers Secret Wars, oh hey listen, Avengers 7, and they start telling us about it in 2032. They're already lining up for it, so that only a half decade will have passed in between Avengers movies, and they know what they're working towards from the very first film. Now look, I don't think it's totally fair to look at the early Multiverse Saga films like Shang-Chi, The Eternals, Black Widow to a lesser extent because it was a prequel, and say that they weren't trying to build towards something there. I just don't think that they anticipated the fan and critic reaction to go the way that it went on The Eternals, and I think it was things like that that really sort of shuttered all of their plans in the process. Doesn't mean, though, that they didn't say, hey, let's set up Judgment Day at the end of that film, and when we need to revisit it, we can. And if you've heard Kumail Nanjiani talk about it here real recently, he said that his original contract for Marvel was 6 films, and he anticipated that after shooting on Eternals, basically with a couple of other side projects, he'd be shooting on Marvel movies every other year for the coming decade, and now obviously in the rearview mirror, that never happened, but there were plans there for Black Knight, for the Eternals, for the Celestials, obviously setting up a Judgment Day. That was the plan. It's just that they got away from it and going into something else doesn't mean they're not coming back, and it looks like now they are, and Judgment Day is going to be Avengers 7 or Avengers 8 with a major crossover including X-Men, Fantastic Four, Eternals, X-Force, and who knows what other teams at that point, like possibly the Champions, are involved in the MCU. And what's more, what better team to have now as a part of the 616 who just dealt with an enormous celestial body in, say, Galactus, now being on your side to help fight the Eternals. They'll probably have leveled up quite a bit. Reed Richards will probably have a completely different plan than, say, hey, teleporting the Earth or teleporting the Eternals, which doesn't seem like it would work in the same way that it worked with Galactus and without his ship. But you guys let me know all your thoughts down below in reaction to any and all of this. If you've read that Judgment Day crossover, do you think it's a great idea to use it in the MCU? If you haven't, it's a short 6-part miniseries. I highly recommend it. There is quite a bit of reading to go into building up to it. You might not understand some things during the stories, but you can kind of dive right in and read it for what it's worth. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff. Remember to hit the sub button and leave a comment down below to be entered to win the giveaways. Make sure you hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on to keep up with the videos at the channel. And of course, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name is Michael Roman. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. Find me on all other platforms under the name AllFires. And while I would sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.